Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about Nintendo 3DS emulation on Android with Lime 3DS. And Lime 3DS has taken one step closer to getting on the Google Play Store. So they say here, we have now opened closed testing for Lime 3DS on the Google Play Store. This testing period is mandated by Google and should ideally last 2 weeks. If you are able to join in, please do, as active participation in this test is mandated to progress to a full release. Join this Google Groups chat to get started, then follow the instructions listed in the only post on that group. So if you are very curious about this one, if you wanted to test, the link will be in the description below. For those who may not be aware, Lime 3DS is 100% free, it's open source, and it's a continuation of Citra. So this is essentially putting Citra back on the Google Play Store in an improved state. Next up, we're talking about a very interesting project that has just been announced, and that's StarFox CD. So here is the announcement. Development of StarFox CD has begun. This hack will be using the MSU1 chip for CD quality music, hence the title, and eventually the Super FX3 chip, and SNES Rumble controller designed by the talented Randy Linden. And taking a look at the image there, it appears there are StarFox 2 characters right on that thumbnail. I am very curious about this one and looking forward to seeing what happens with it. Let me know your thoughts about StarFox CD in the comments below. Unfortunately, I've got no information on release date just yet. Next up, if you're a fan of Time Crisis, you might be a fan of this thing. You might not be, but anyways, it's been announced it's an AI-equipped gun controller, and it's called the GAIME, I think. It's GAIME with a whole bunch of apostrophes in it. Anyways, they say it's 100% plug and play with full LCD screen support. Now, looking at the advertisement for this thing, and they're saying it's the world's first AI-powered plug and play gun for modern TVs. I don't know why we need AI power in this thing, but at the same time, everything nowadays seems to be getting AI. And it's got Time Crisis pre-installed. It works on any modern TV, and they say it's 100% plug and play and low input lag. It's being priced at $90 for the base gun and $120 for the gun and a pedal. Let me know your thoughts about this one. I'm very curious to see what performance on this thing is like, and I'm also very curious to see if it can be hacked and maybe play other games as well, and not just Time Crisis. And I'm also wondering what emulator it's using. And speaking about peripherals, next up we're talking about Monster Hunter Wilds, and it's being reported that there's a collector's edition of this game in Japan worth $1,300. And it comes with a bike. Now, taking a look at the bike, it seems to be a foldable bike and it does not look comfortable to ride. I mean, the tires on that thing are tiny and the seat and handlebar positions, well, it doesn't really inspire confidence in terms of riding that thing for long distances or being very practical, aside from being portable. Now, unfortunately, I've got no idea if this is going to be available outside of Japan. My gut tells me no, and my gut also tells me that this is probably going to be a highly sought after collector's item for those big fans of Monster Hunter. Let me know your thoughts about this one. Would you pay $1,300 to get a bike with the game? Do you think it's worth it? And also, do you think this bike looks ergonomic? I mean, based on the design here, it seems you'd be hunched over to use those handlebars, unless you've got super long arms. Next up, we're talking about the PlayStation State of Play, which happened yesterday and was met with mixed reactions. One of the announcements was a collaboration between Stellar Blade and Nier Automata. And there is going to be a photo mode as well. There's no release date for this one yet, and it's a very interesting collaboration and one that I think kind of fits. Let me know your thoughts about this collaboration. On top of that, this was one announcement that I was very excited about, and that's Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remaster, which launches on PS5 and PS4 December 10th, and yes, it's also hitting PC. Now, one of the many awesome things here is that Aspyr was actually able to get the source code for these games from Crystal Dynamics, which I think is really going to help out the overall remaster. It's not like they had to build everything from scratch, and I'm hoping here that they're going to feel true to the originals. They're obviously going to have upgraded stuff like upgraded graphics and camera and controls, and I am really looking forward to this one. Let me know your thoughts about it. And speaking about remasters, next up we're talking about the Lunar series, which was announced during the State of Play. It's getting a remaster in spring of 2025. And this includes Lunar, the Silver Star Story Complete, and Lunar 2, the Eternal Blue Complete. And this is pretty amazing if you're a fan of these series. And I think like the Soul Reaver series here, the Legacy of Kain games, I think a lot of people are going to be experiencing these for the first time, which is incredible. Now, from my understanding, the Lunar Remastered collection is not exclusive to PlayStation, and it will be hitting stuff like the Switch, Xbox, and Steam. I just haven't seen it listed yet. Next up, this one was absolutely no surprise because it was already leaked, and that's Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which was announced during the State of Play. Now, this is interesting to me because the game's not even 10 years old yet. However, it is being remastered for the PS5 and PC. If you're on PC, I think it's like a $10 upgrade or something like that. I don't necessarily know why this game needed a remaster, but yeah, it looks good. Let me know your thoughts about this game being remastered. I mean, taking a look at the comments on that video, and they're sharing the same sentiment I have. PlayStation 5 will forever be known as the console of remasters. So many games stranded on the PS3 and they remastered this. Horizon Zero people asked for this. Black Myth Wukong Remastered comes out next month. And they remastered this, but not Bloodborne. On a side note here, if you're a fan of LEGO games, you may want to keep your eyes open on November 14th, because that's when LEGO Horizon Adventures launches, which was announced during the State of Play as well. In my opinion, this is much more exciting than Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. And I'm not really a fan of LEGO games. They are fun, but at the same time, I'm not really drawn to them. But I will say that this is a completely different game as opposed to a remaster of a game that I didn't think needed to be remastered. One that I've played through already and don't really need to play through it again so soon, just with updated graphics. And speaking about exciting things, during the State of Play as well, even though they're in the middle of a lawsuit, or at least at the beginning of a lawsuit, Palworld is now launching on PS5. The announcement was out, and yes, it's now live on PS5. Now, unfortunately, this is the standard version of Palworld. There was no remastered edition announced during the State of Play, which I think a lot of people might be disappointed about. I'm assuming this game is going to get even more popular now that it's available on the PS5. And speaking about people being excited, next up here, we're talking about something that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. And that's the follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima. It's not a sequel, it's just the next game being developed by the same studio here, and it's the first game they're building for the PS5. This one is called Ghost of Yotei. Yotei, I think. I might have mispronounced that. Anyways, here it looks absolutely gorgeous. The cinematics, the scenery, everything looks really, really good. This one is releasing in 2025, and I'm looking forward to it. Next up, during the State of Play, they showcased some Dragon Age The Veilguard gameplay, and it's received some very interesting reactions. So taking a look here, the game is looking okay. However, some people have pointed some things out and they seem disappointed. I mean, here are the comments. Why are their heads so big? Why is everyone under 5 feet tall? How did we go from Origins to this abomination? What went wrong in the last 15 years? I don't get the art style they went with this game at all, just baffling. Their heads are big, which gives it an off look. I mean, there's even more here. Their heads are too big. Concord, Middle Ages Edition, and it's so sad what they've done to Dragon Age. Now, let me know your thoughts about Dragon Age in the comments below. Do you agree with the art style? Do you like what they've done? Or do you not like it and you're worried about the game? And speaking about gameplay, next up we're talking about Tekken 8. Now, in yesterday's video, we talked about Terry Bogard joining Street Fighter 6, something that I'm very excited about. Anyways, here Heihachi is joining Tekken 8 to no surprise, but a lot of people thought he was dead. Anyways, he will be joining on October 4th, and if you're interested in watching some of his gameplay, there's a video now up on YouTube. Now, shifting away from Sony's State of Play, and there was another production yesterday that seemed to fly under a lot of people's radar, or a lot of people didn't care about it. Anyways, it's called Sonic Central, and it happened on September 24th, and they announced a few interesting things, like Keanu Reeves DLC and Sonic Generations. So if I'm not mistaken, the movie DLC for Sonic X Shadow Generations will contain Keanu Reeves' voice. And there's also going to be a collector's edition for the entire game from Limited Run Games. If you're a fan of Sonic, if you're a fan of Sega, you may want to check out Sonic Central. There's a whole bunch of great information there, and it's about a 27-minute video. And speaking about DLC, next up we're talking about TMNT Shredder's Revenge, which is getting Radical Reptiles DLC. Dotemu announced the other day that Mona Lisa and Mondo Gecko will be joining the game, and they're also going to revamp the OST. The best part about this DLC is that it already launched. It launched yesterday as well. If you've played this game, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below in regards to the DLC. And speaking about DLC, next up we're switching to modding and talking about Nexus Mods, and there is a brand new update here to the Nexus Mods app available for Windows and Linux. So at the time of filming, version 0.6.1 is the latest update to this app. However, they do say to update the app, you must completely uninstall the old version, including all mods. And with this brand new update, there's a whole bunch of bug fixes, improvements, and tweaks. For example, a brand new UI for My Mods and Library. And there's also enhancements here for Cyberpunk 2077. And on top of that, there's a brand new experimental feature called Collections with an emphasis on experimental. So they say the feature is unfinished and not considered stable. It will not accurately install complex collections and is currently only functional for premium users. So I'm curious to see where this one goes, how long it's going to take them to make this fully functional. And speaking about experimental, next up we're talking about LXQt, which is a Linux desktop environment. Anyways, here LXQt is getting a brand new update to version 2.1, and it will contain experimental Wayland session. Now, this is not full Wayland, it's not going to be perfect out of the gate, but it appears they are entertaining it and will be making improvements to it. As much as some people don't like Wayland, it appears it's going to be the way of the future and X11 is going to be obsolete. Anyways, here, if you wanted to experiment with it as of 2.1, you can. Next up, we're talking about the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever they're going to call the console. Anyways, someone found some very important information by reverse engineering Nintendo Switch firmware version 18.0.0. And some of this may concern some people, and some people may be excited about some of the other information here. So there are 3 points up on Gaming Leaks and Rumors, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Now, it's worth pointing out that these points have been hypothesized by the person looking at the code, but at the same time, these assumptions might ring true. So the first one here, I think people will be excited about: higher quality graphics resources for the Switch 2. The second point, shader caches, both for the developer and Nintendo itself. And the third point, which I think some people might not be as excited about: protection for certain critical Switch 2 files against piracy or emulator developers. So it does appear that Nintendo is focusing on emulation and, no surprise, also piracy. I'm very glad to see that these things have been separated, because emulation does not equal piracy. Nintendo often associates piracy directly with emulation, and that shouldn't be the case, but they do. Anyways, here it appears that they're worried about Switch 2 and emulation. And on a side note here, I am looking forward to the possible enhanced graphics with the Switch 2, maybe Tears of the Kingdom looking a little bit better, Breath of the Wild, or a slew of other games, or at least possibly not choppy frame rates. Next up, we're talking about God of War Ragnarok modding and NOPSSDK. Now, for those who may not be aware, we talked about this one yesterday. NOPSSDK stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano. And it was a mod up on GitHub and Nexus Mods to remove the PSN requirement from the game. And today it appears that mod has been taken down. And when I head on over to the GitHub page for it, because it was open source, I'm getting the 404 error, so it has been taken down from there as well. Now, since something has been released online, good luck ever taking it down. I'm assuming this is going to be circling around the internet, cycling in different areas, and popping up probably on different GitHub pages. But for the time being, it appears that Sony is actively taking measures against not requiring PSN accounts. Now, moving forward, I'm not certain if Sony is going to patch God of War Ragnarok to make it not compatible with NOPSSDK. I'm assuming they may not be able to easily, and that's why they're taking this route here, so that people just can't download it and use it. Moving on, and we're talking about Google's Chromecast replacement, the new Google TV streamer, which is being priced at about $100 overall. Now, taking a look at this, it looks good from the outside. It's a little bit more bulky than the previous Chromecast. And they've made a very interesting choice here. They did not include an HDMI cable with it. Now, I know a lot of people have extra HDMI cables. I mean, I have a whole ton of them, like USB-C cables and also chargers. But at the same time here, imagine buying this as a present for someone, or even buying it for yourself and you don't have an extra HDMI cable. This thing is useless out of the box. You can't connect it. I'm baffled that Google didn't include an HDMI cable, but they do sell one for an extra $20. And by buying this, you get a $10 credit for the HDMI cable. So $10 off, you're still paying an extra $10 for HDMI. That is baffling considering the old one, which is priced at half, can connect right to the TV, no extra stuff necessary. Next up here, we're talking about Nintendo, and it appears that Nintendo lawyers are not just active on YouTube, but also on a whole bunch of different platforms. And it's being reported that Nintendo's lawyers filed a DMCA takedown request against a Mario AI-generated image using Twitter's Grok AI. So the company that Nintendo is using is reportedly Tracer, which is using AI to take down AI images. At least that's what the story is saying. It's a very interesting situation, and Nintendo's reach is all over the internet. It seems it doesn't matter where you are, they might find you. Moving on, and we're talking about Winamp, and we talked about Winamp a while back when they made the announcement that it was going to go open source. Well, now there seems to be a few issues, or at least a big controversy with them going open source. And that's the fact that they're not going to allow people to fork or maintain their own versions of it. It seems as if they just want people to update the main version of Winamp and that's it, without being able to do anything else with the code. So almost like they want free maintenance from the community for Winamp. Now, I could be wrong about this, and if I am, let me know in the comments below, but based on everything I've seen about this so far, it kind of goes against the spirit of being open source, especially on GitHub. Who knows though? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you still interested in Winamp? Do you still use it? Next up, we're talking about Taki Udon, and we're not talking about the Mr. Pie in this video, but we're talking about his Super 5 OLED. And Taki Udon has announced the pricing as well as the launch date. So it will launch on September 26th at 10 a.m. Hong Kong time. And I'm assuming it's going to sell out pretty quick. Initial pricing for this one starts at $45 provided you're using the code REMAKEDOES, and then it jumps to $50 overall. And the pricing will go as high as $99 provided you're using the code REMAKEDOES10, but will then go to $110 after a couple of days. Next up, we're talking about H2M, and we talked about H2M a while back when it was an online multiplayer mod for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, because for some reason that game did not include an online multiplayer aspect to it. Crazy. Anyways, here that mod was taken down, but it appears it has risen from the ashes. So here's the tweet: HorizonMW, a revival of the popular H2 multiplayer, including voice chat, frequent updates, anti-cheat coming soon, and new content down the line, is available now. If you are curious and wanted to learn more about the whole thing, I'll drop a link to this tweet in the description below. And last up here, we're talking about Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, which has just launched on Android. If you're interested in the game, it will set you back about $10 or so. I think it's $14 in Canada. It could be cheaper in the States, or maybe even the same price. Anyways, it's rated 4.2 stars with over 10,000 downloads. However, despite the relatively high rating, some people are not happy with it, and for some very good reasons. So Kimchi says, don't buy the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm port to Android if you value controller support, widescreen support, or more than 30 FPS. In my opinion, that should have come with the game's standard, and I'm wondering if it's going to get patched to include it later. I mean, even taking a look at some of the lower ratings on Google Play, and people are complaining about the exact same thing, specifically with controls, considering the controls they are saying are small and hard to use, and a controller would completely remedy that. Now, to be honest with you, I don't mind touchscreen controls, provided I'm just playing casually or maybe just quickly for a few minutes. But if I'm trying to play seriously, have a really good time with it, then I usually like a controller. I mean, a lot of mobile games have controller support, and I thought they would have included it. I don't know about this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you've played this game and what are your thoughts about the controls. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff, except for the outro. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about today in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.